3, 2, 1.
Hey there, you beautiful badass. Welcome to the Keri Croft Show. I'm your host, Keri Croft, delivering you stories that get you pumped up and feeling like the unstoppable savage that you are. So grab your coffee, put on your game face, and let's do this thing, baby.
3, 2, 1.
Ready to elevate your self-care game? Boss Gal Beauty Bar is a modern med spa offering everything from cosmetic injectables, lasers and microneedling to medical-grade facials and skincare. Conveniently located in Clintonville, Grandview, Powell, and Easton, making self-care a priority has never been easier. Use code CROFT for $25 off your first visit. So how many people ask you if it's really worth it to get a haircut by Mia Santiago?
Honestly, a lot. And honestly, it is.
I mean, she is a celebrity hairstylist in Columbus, Ohio. That's all you really need to know.
She doesn't miss, and now she has her own salon, Headspace. It is truly something the city has never seen.
Girl, I did one scalp treatment, and I would let Jake put his hands on my head anytime he wanted.
No, same. It's right in Upper Arlington where Mia cuts and styles, and Jake manages a full scalp spa, which is like a facial for your scalp and a massage for all of the stress and tension we hold in our head and neck.
I legit felt like I was on something after I got my first treatment, and my hair looks so much healthier now that all the buildup and dead skin are gone. I mean, I do love massages, but honestly, this might be even better. Plus, it has so many proven benefits for my hair health.
Truly believe you get what you pay for, and Mia and Jake are the dream team.
Use code Keri for 20% off your first visit with Miss Mia Santiago. Bobby Carpenter, welcome to the Keri Croft Show. Alas, we meet. Aren't you excited?
Yeah, this should be a lot of fun.
So here's the question. How are we both in this bubble that is Arlington? It's this big.
Yep.
You know, you've got like literally the park. You've got now Littleton's, thank God. Shout out Littleton's.
Yeah.
You know, you got Whole Foods. I mean, this is not a large radius. You're a large man. I'm a pretty large woman. How have we not even like crossed paths?
I mean, I have 4 children that are freshmen, 8th grade, 5th grade, and 2nd. And so a lot of my spheres now kind of circle around that. A lot of it circles around Ohio State. And so I mean, I'm surprised tangentially you just haven't met something here and there. But most of my day now, I mean, unless I'm either doing my radio, some sort of media, working out, like the rest of it's like coaching at Northland Park and going to my daughter's tennis matches or my son's youngest soccer games and flag football and all these different things. So that kind of just dominates that. And we're big into swimming. So we got swimming in the winter. My daughter wrestles. Like it's basketball. There's always something. And so I guess that's kind of it. And I probably, Keri, used to get out in the town like and do more stuff. Just like getting out and like socializing. I don't really have time, that desire to kind of go do that anymore.
So what you're saying is I just wasn't a priority to you.
Well, I didn't know where you were to find you to go.
Well, now you know I'm on Brandon Road, Blue House.
I mean, I don't think you want me showing up at your house.
Up the street from Wine. I don't know. I'm kind of weird like that. You know, it probably wouldn't freak me out.
Well, fair enough.
So your daughter wrestles. I think I love her.
Yeah. Like I said,
That's badass.
I've got 4 kids. She's the second. She is very much like my mother and probably in turn like me a lot. Very strong-willed. She plays tennis, wrestles, lacrosse. Like it's getting tough for her to do all that. And she wrestled when she was young and did mostly girls, but there were some boys too, and she would beat dudes and they didn't like it. And then last year she was at the middle school and they didn't have enough for a girls team. And when she had other girls to wrestle, she would wrestle them. But like she wrestled boys a lot, and like she wrestled Luke Fickle's nephew, like his brother's son, and he wrestled at Penn, like great wrestling family.
Did she take him down?
I know. Her goal, I said, your goal should be to survive. Like, go the distance. It's like Rocky 1. Can you go the distance?
Yeah.
Because he's pinning other dudes in like 30 seconds. And so she made it into the second round and almost made it to conclusion with that. And I don't know if it was that match or before, like she had gotten headbutted, kind of broke her nose. And like, it's like, you can sit out the rest of the season. No, I don't want to. And she loves it. So she's trying to get friends to do it. And I mean, it's hard. It's 3 sports, and they're very time-consuming and all very different. So,
what's your daughter's name?
McClain, like John McClain.
John McClain.
Little C, big C.
Did you name her after that?
I told her that. One of her teachers actually asked her in school last year. My wife, one of her mom's best friends, that was her maiden name, and she absolutely loved it. And so that was kind of like her family name, throwing that on there. And she was born on St. Patrick's Day, so it kind of fits.
McClain, you're a badass. Literally. I mean, that's my girl right there. I love that. So speaking of, you said something about at the park with football.
Yeah.
I have to retract my statement that I've never seen you, because I actually did see you coaching. And this might have been maybe a couple years ago now, I was walking my dog. It's all coming back to me now, Bobby. And I believe you were with one, was it, what's his name? Joey Galloway?
Yeah, sort of been Ryan Miller and Joey Galloway coaching our oldest.
At the time, I remember walking by going, oh my God, is this really the trifecta coaching the kids? So what are the dads, the normal dad, like the normal coaching situation, I've seen it with my husband where it's like, hey, we need a coach. We need an assistant coach. You're scrambling to get this coach. And the dad's like, just some rando, average Joe. And then your team has the trifecta. How does that, like truly, I laughed my ass off. I'm like, oh, these kids are going to lose. Not. Like, I mean, seriously, just the genetics alone, but then just the coaching prowess and the experience and the how does that work?
So I've been around a lot of players, former players, some really good coaches, some not. And so I'm from a coaching family. My mom coached our club swim team for 40 years, still does. She coached the high school for 5 years. My dad was our high school football coach for 23 at Lancaster. He coached me in middle school. And so I've been around that. But I've been around a lot of guys like, you played in the NFL. I'm like, the NFL schemes are not coming here. Like Ohio State is not coming onto Northern Park, the schemes. It's about teaching kids to bend their knees, to block, to tackle. It's the same thing in basketball. Can you get kids to bend their knees, understand spatial awareness? And so when people would always see that, I would always laugh at it. Like Ryan Miller, really good college football player, never played in the NFL. One of the best youth coaches for any sport, baseball, basketball, girls' soccer. He never played soccer. I watched Ryan coach soccer. I'm like, this guy can coach it all because he has a high degree of enthusiasm and he connects really well and relates to the kids. So people get upset about that. And I'm like, guys, it's just connecting the kids. It's patience. It's teaching. Some of the best coaches I've been around never really played. Never really played the sport that they were coaching, if at all. So, people get mad. It's like a point of contention when we put together these teams. Yes. And every one of my kids is wholly different. My dad told me this. I have 3 brothers. I'm the oldest. Yeah. He's like, oh, you guys will have different gifts. Some of you may be great at this, great at that. And just whatever it is, do it really well. And so my oldest son, he's decent at football. He's a better swimmer than he is a football player. And all the kids have their own unique little gifts. Like my daughter would probably play football if we would let her, and if she was a boy, 100%. But it's, having your kids on the team, being in the community, knowing people, it's just, it's fun. I love it. There's a lot of stress that comes with it, with everything that goes around it, because now I'm coaching my 3rd son who's in 5th, 6th, and then I've got a 2nd grader. We coach his flag, and they like it. They love it. I'm like, how good you guys will be. That might be up to you. Some of it's up to God when you're born. I can't tell you what you're going to be given. We're going to try really hard at what we do. And if you want to be a painter, that's great. You want to play the piano, that's great. Any instrument, we're going to work at it. That's always my kind of goal. So,
what you tell these people in these people in UA? I got one line for you. Don't hate the player, hate the game. This is how it works, okay?
I just tell people to toughen up, buttercup.
Exactly. I can't help that I'm, 6'4" and Ohio State. Listen, it is what it is. But there has to be some kind of internal pressure for your boys, I would think, to be like, look at you. I want to be like you. I just met you. I want to be like Bobby. Your kids have to be like, oh man. So it's great that they have swim and other things and that you're actually telling them whatever your unique gifts are, let's go for that.
Oh, I was fortunate. My dad played 10 years in the NFL.
Yeah.
And it's hard for people that didn't grow up in that to understand it. And I've had long conversations with good friends of mine who we've played all together, but their dad didn't play. Because they always laugh, how did you handle that? I'm like, I walked down our high school in our GAC corridor, and there's a picture of my dad between the 2 gym doors playing for the New York Giants. And he's the head coach. It's so it casts a long shadow. And it's not for everybody. And there was times I wrestled with that in life of how to deal with it. But he never pressured me into it. My mom never pressured me into it. She made us all swim because she said it was good for us. And my dad went right along with that. But it was whatever you wanted to be, go be great at it. And it's going to take some toughness, a little hard work. And we're so void of that in society now because everyone's looking for the hack of how do I get to be this without doing all of that. I want to get to the destination, just skip and jump and get there. And I'm like, there is nothing to that. I wish there was. The best people that I've ever talked to and watched, it was just, they woke up and did the same thing really well each and every day. And so it was hot around here. And Central Ohio a couple weeks ago, and everybody's just panicking, melting. We can't have the kids practice outside. They're going to die. It's going to be this and that. I'm like, guys practice in Florida and this every day. I was down in Dallas. It was hot. They never canceled their stuff. Like, there is no universal temperature, wet bulb, humidity level that they just shut it down. Just be smart about it. Get your kids some water. Talk about it being hard. Let's work through it. Be safe. If anybody has any health issues, like, let's look through it. But like, you know why your kids aren't tough? Because you don't ask them to be tough. I told my kids, if be nothing else, be tough. Yeah. Be a hard worker. And even if you're not talented, like, that's something that I always respected out of people, that you're willing to do a little bit more. Because my dad, like, he's not much to look at. He's barely 6 feet tall. I don't know how fast he was, but every person I ever talked to about him who was a teammate, all they ever said was, your dad was the hardest worker we were ever played with. Like, first out of practice, last in, played as hard as he could, like, always all effort. And so I tried to, like, embrace as much of that as I could. I tried to push that onto my kids. And subsequently, like, my wife thinks I'm a jerk half the time, but I said, I grew up with a shadow that was over, that was the shadow that was cast. Right, wrong, or indifferent. It's not his fault. I learned to enjoy that, but it's the same shadow that my kids have. It's the same shadow that Joey Galloway's kids have, or AJ Hawk, or all these people expect them to be great. Well, you don't just wake up and be great. Like, AJ was a great football player. AJ wasn't great because he just got out of bed and played football. I train with a guy every day. I know exactly how he got to be where he was. And so he pushed me a lot. Hopefully I pushed him some. And that's how, like, greatness, that's how winning is done. Like, to steal it from Rocky, like, that's how winning is done. Yeah. Like, each day, foot in front of the other, like, let's go.
That's how Rocky took down, what's his name, the big old, what's his name,
Ivan
the big
Drago,
blonde,
the Russian,
and he's in the snow and he's doing that's one of the all-time best scenes in any movie to me. Just showing how, he's got these, like, the technology and all that shit. And Rocky's like, I'm gonna take you down with these tires. I'm gonna take you down with this barn.
Yeah,
it's unbelievable. It's true.
We get in sports science is great. We have more modalities now. I mean, I've got my Apple Watch on. It's telling me my, heart rate and
what's your heart rate right now? You're getting fired up. What is it?
Like
what is
174, it? Or 74. It's not. I mean, we have all this stuff, but there is no substitute. Like, I told people, I'm like, I want to see if I can crack 180 on here. Like, that's probably not good. I'm like, fine. Like, whatever. Like, let's go see what we can do. See if we can try to still challenge ourselves. Like, if you're not challenging yourself, you'll never get better. Like, Mickey Marotti and my man Schleich says this all the time. Like, if you have nothing to prove, you'll never improve. And as you get older, like, I kind of accomplished most of what I wanted to in life by the age of 30. So it's trying to find new stuff now, and some of it might be ridiculous, but a lot of it comes in, like, training elements of how hard can I push myself to stem off the tide of aging and just see if I can still do what I did 15 and 20 years ago.
Did you see my interview with Mickey Marotti?
I did not. You had Mick on here? Mm-hmm. That's tremendous.
Now you need to go back.
I'll watch it.
That's your homework today.
Okay.
He was fucking awesome. So back to your dad, Robert. Was he super hard on you? And you always felt the heaviness of being the great football player?
No, not really at all. The irony is with him, he is much more laid back. I always say my third brother is very similar to him. I always say big keg, but real long fuse. Like, it took a lot to get to my dad. It was my mom who was subsequently, probably that's who I'm more like, to tell you the truth, and my daughter. It was daily, all the time, dragging me out of bed. My kids yell at me, I don't want to do this stuff. It's terrible. Grandma's so mean. I don't like being around her. I'm like, yeah, you know why? I go, Grandma helped shape me into what I am, right, wrong, or indifferent. 6:30 in the morning when I'm 8 years old, going to swim with the other kids that are, 10 to 18, 12 to 18. Like, you're going to swim with them for 3 hours. And our pool, club pool, it wasn't like anything here in Arlington. It's not heated. It was cold. It was tough. And go swim with kids that are 5 years older than you for 3 hours. Like, that's how you get better. You learn to, like, do things that you hate. And that was 6 to 7 weeks every single summer.
Is your mom's name Susie?
My mom's name is Susie.
Okay, so Susie, how did Susie get like that?
She's the youngest of 7 and the only girl.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
And I love that, the common route would be to talk about Robert, your dad, because that's just what we do. But really the beast, not that, no shade to the dad, but like the beast in the story really is Susie.
That's very true. And I talk a lot about my dad and his shaping of me. We had some great conversations, and he was always there as a resource. but never one that was always leaning in. It was my mom who, on a daily basis, was always taking the Brillo pad to your face, like making sure that like we're getting done what we need to get done. And when she needed to invoke my father and bring him into it, he would come and he was involved. But on a daily basis, for the seemingly meaningless things, like the menial tasks that nobody wants to do, it's like if you're going to do it, you're going to do it well. Like anything worth doing is worth doing well. And that came from like her upbringing. She's one of 7, youngest, only girl. Her dad laid carpet forever. Like my grandma never drove a car, never had her license. We lived beside her. She ended up moving in with us after my grandfather passed. Like they had a 45, 50 acre farm, like did that every day on top of it. So they were just a very work-oriented family. And that's how all my mom's brothers were. It's kind of crazy. They're all very similar. But that shaped my brothers and I probably more than anything was like, I remember trying to clean my room, like do stuff. She's like, this is not good. And my dad would acknowledge that, and he was there too. But it was her on a daily basis, like, you're not doing anything till the room's clean. Like, you can walk out then. She made me play the piano. Hated playing the piano. Every day before I play with my friends, half hour on the piano. She put it on the oven. You hear the beeper go. You go run outside. But it stunk. But I appreciated it now. And she always said that I would, and I told her she was a liar. So I tell my kids the same things that she tells me, that this is good to well-round you. And it's good to do things in life you don't want to do. Because I'm going to be honest, like that's a large portion of life. No one just gets to wake up and vacation every day. Like, let's just go have fun. I love working out. There's days I really hate it because age sucks and like your body hurts. But I know I need to do it. I know it's going to be good for me. I wake up and do morning radio at 6. Like, there's days I don't want to get out of bed at 4:40 when the alarm goes off. And I'm like, I just wish I could sleep in. But I've got a family to provide for. I've got people that rely on me. I've got a job that I enjoy that I don't want to lose. So like, there's elements like that there's with good and bad is always there. And I learned a lot of that from my mom and like her elements of consistency.
So you get up at 4:40 every morning?
I mean, that's the job. I do my radio show now at 6.
6 a.m.
But the first thing I do, like I like to do something physically active. So I was working out prior during COVID at my house. I would run on the treadmill, get about a 45-minute lift in, do my show from home. Then they wanted us to start coming into the studio. It's extra 15 minutes to travel. It was too much. I was like a zombie by noon every day unless I went to bed at 8 o'clock. And I just have to stay up and watch games. It was hard. So instead of doing that, I was like, you know what? I want to do something every day. I started this last year. I'm going to do 2 max effort sets of pull-ups in the morning before I leave. Like, I don't drink coffee really, so that gets me going. So I'd wake up now. We got a little gym like right behind our bedroom. I go in there. I've got it to the point I'm like 22, 23. I'll read my daily devotional in between, do another like 16 to 18, depending on how much I had to drink and how tired I am, and get dressed, head into work. And like that gets me kind of going and set for the day. So no matter what else happens, like I was like, at least I did this.
Yeah.
No matter what, like I did like over 40 pull-ups and I feel good about life.
Yeah. Okay. So on your intake form, you like I told you when you first walked in, like you were very scarce in what you filled out. Get it? You're a busy guy. So you and Ryan Miller are like in the top running for like who filled out the least amount. But the one thing you wrote on there that I chuckled, I said, how would people describe you? And do you remember what you wrote?
Oh, gosh, I don't know.
My wife says...
Oh, you said, yeah, my wife says I'm...
No, you said this. You go, my wife says, asshole. I'm like, okay. I laughed my ass because, and then you said a minute ago, my wife thinks I'm a jerk, right? You got 4 kids. We all know marriage is like...
It's work. It's hard.
It's not... Marriage is great. It's beautiful. It has its upside. I'm not trying to say it's not an amazing thing, but I don't think we are told, or I don't think we understand the extent of the work that goes into marriage. And I think you, and I'm just making assumptions, I mean, you're a big fish in a little pond, right? You live in Arlington. Everyone knows you. You're Bobby Carpenter. She lives with you every day. She sees like everything. So what is she like, first of all? Does she balance you out? Does she have to like take you by the neck and be like, simmer down? Because you're a high intensity dude. I mean, it doesn't take a genius to figure that out. So how does that all work with Courtney?
Well, the beautiful thing about marriage is generally the person that you marry is going to be the opposite of what you are. And it's funny, I've read a lot of books on this, and like, it's something you got to work at. If you don't put effort into it, like, it's not going to grow, just like anything else. And it takes a while for a lot of people to figure that out. Maybe some never do, and I'm still trying. But you know, my mom is more like me. My dad is more like my wife. Like, I mean, that's the reality. I mean, she is much more relaxed. Things don't bother her. And I told her, like, it's a gift that you can walk by things that are not the way they should be, and that doesn't bother you. I go, because it drives me insane. And I literally can't handle it. When we have changes in the schedule, I don't like that. I like my routine. She could be dropped in the middle of anywhere and like survive and do all that and figure things out. It's like, I could do it, but I would not be comfortable doing it. It would frustrate me. I would have a hard time relaxing during that process. And that's my dad's just like, whatever, it's easy going, it's fun, especially with my kids. And my mom and him used to fight all the time growing up because he was always, whatever, you guys do it. My mom's like, no, this is the way it needs to be done. And I told my wife, I go, my parents fight all the time. And then she's like, they don't really fight at all. And my mom goes, the only thing we ever fought about was you guys, of like really how to parent you this way. And so that's kind of the push-pull with my wife and I of, hey, they need more freedom. No, they need more structure. And
I don't know how anybody ever finds a actual, like, perfect way to do it. I mean, there's always going to be push and pull.
Perfection is in the process. Like, that's what it is. Like, there is no perfect. You're never going to live a perfect day. Like, you're not going to have you may have a perfect moment here and there. That's ideal. But I mean, even on our best days, like, there's still 2 or 3 things like, I shouldn't have said that. And, you know, maybe there's things she regrets. Probably not as much as me, because I'm the one that's more of the antagonist in the story. But like, it was hot. I was talking to the heat about Arlington, everybody closing down, and we canceled. We were going to cancel practice. We ended up going no pads. And I was lobbying to say, we need to practice in pads. It's hot. It's going to be uncomfortable. I get that. Let's go half practice for the 5th, 6th, all the kids. Half in pads. We'll take your shoulder pads and helmet off. We'll tell the kids we're going to get through this. We'll give them plenty of water and everything, and then we'll proceed that way. No. Everybody's scared. And then I tell the kids, like, you know, maternal instinct is to protect your kids. My job, my kids, is I'm to prepare you for the world. And the world sucks. There's a lot of terrible things. So, I mean, I put on full sweats. I put on shoulder pads. I put on one of my helmets. And I went out there for an hour and a half with all the kids when they were in shorts and a T-shirt. And I go, I'm not going to die, and you wouldn't have either. And everybody needs to understand that. You'll be okay. We'll take water breaks, and we'll do all this. And my wife then subsequently said, you're not the nicest person in the world. Maybe a little more than a jerk. Why do you do that? And I'm like, to prove to people that it's okay. Like, people need proof now that things are going to be all right. And so maybe it was a ridiculous thing to do. It probably was. I do a lot of over-the-top, ridiculous gestures. Some of them I like to think are romantic and great. Some of them are absurd and juvenile, but I don't know. They
Give
seem
me
like,
okay, romantic. You just opened the door. What's a romantic gesture, like an over-the-top romantic gesture that you've done as of late?
So we had been married, our 16th wedding anniversary, was that last year or the year before? I'm trying to remember. It may have been got married in 2008. So it would have been this year, 2008. It would have been this year, 20. So I was trying to find my wife's first car online that I could. It was a Geo Prism. It's the one we had when we got together. Couldn't find that. And so I ended up finding like a little Jeep, which was the first car that I actually bought when we were in Dallas. And so I went through, and I printed out a picture of every home that we had lived in together. And we had moved a lot over like the 16 years and put that all together. And I had like the little car, and I got like a rose for each and every one, and had that kind of set up for like our 16th wedding anniversary. Because I wake up early in the morning, so had all that. And I'm like, this has been our 16-year journey. You know, we're now old enough to, our marriage is old enough to drive.
Oh, that's
and so
cute.
then this is like the 16-year journey. And I go, it wasn't like it was the most complicated thing in the world, but it probably took a little bit of thought. It took probably an hour to put all together, to go through Zillow, find pictures of all the stinking places, the like 9 homes we had lived in, and in apartments and everything else.
Yeah.
And put all that together and get a little car and get all the little roses and do all that stuff. And I don't know, like.
What was her reaction, I guess, is
I mean, it was probably underwhelming. Like
Really?
I don't know. I wasn't even there to be a part of it. I'm on the radio. So I set it up, and then I leave and go to work. So.
Well, do you know what her love language is?
It's not anything of mine. They're
okay. So hold on.
I know. We've gone through the book.
I want to see, because I did the same thing with Mickey. Love
I'm physical touch and
Well, of
affirmation.
course you are. I mean, men, like that's exactly. It's like,
Of course.
Jesus, like that's a shocker. Male, I don't know one male that's not like physical touch. Okay, love language.
I don't know, I've been around guys that don't.
Well,
Well, I mean, you can say what you want.
I
mean,
know,
I've been around probably.
that aren't physical touch.
Yeah,
Am
I've
I
been
making am I making a broad stroke about the
It is a
male
broad-
species?
It's probably 90% true, just like most things are.
There's
Like,
outliers and everything.
Stereotypes exist for a reason.
You're right.
It doesn't mean that they're always true, but they were rooted in some truth at some point.
Okay, words of affirmation, quality time, physical touch, acts of service, and receiving gifts.
I don't know any.
But you don't know what hers are?
I try all those
You
things.
Hey,
That's all those
hold on.
things.
Is there a number 6 out there that we're missing?
I told her, I read through that. I go, she's told me that. I go, I try all this stuff. I don't know.
It's like
It's
men.
fine.
Have you read Men Are From Venus, Women Are From Mars?
Yes, I've tried to read all the stuff that I can.
So let's jump into a more comfortable topic, shall we?
Yeah,
Politics.
that's perfect. We can get into politics if you want.
You're like, please, can we get into politics? Let's
had
talk about Trump.
Yeah, we had the debate the other night.
Well, so we do need to talk about it because you did mark. I do ask the question: are you willing to talk about politics? You said yes. Just a disclaimer. To put this on the record, I'm not a Republican. I'm not a Democrat. I'm an independent looking for a world in which I can sort of pick and choose like a buffet. I want to pick and choose my social issues. I don't want to be taxed out the wazoo. I believe in capitalism. I want a world in which I can create something that's really not there right now. That's where I stand.
Then you should run.
Well, I'm trying to get. I've actually tried. There's 3 or 4 people on here. I'm like, let's do it. I'll be your I would be a better campaign manager because I'm way too polarizing. What the fuck was that? So I'm making an assumption that you're a Republican. Is that a fair assumption, or can you not say?
I don't care.
Okay.
I have voted Republican more recently.
Okay.
I grew up. It's interesting because usually you inherit your politics from your parents. I grew up in a split household. My mom's side of the family was probably more conservative. My dad's side of the family, I would say, would be, which doesn't even really exist anymore, would be considered more of a blue dog Democrat, which would be more socially conservative, more economically liberal. However, those things have been kind of flipped with how like Donald Trump governed and what some of the things have kind of happened. And so my dad, I don't think would ever vote for Republican in his entire life. My mom, I think, is probably a little more open-minded on things. And I always just find it very interesting because my mom's brothers are more conservative, and then they get around my dad, and the conversations are absolutely tremendous. So, I mean, I would like to think, like, I told someone, I could never, what you're describing is like voting for this person. Well, they don't agree with this, or I'm not a single issue voter by any stretch. I try to vote for things that I think will make the best economy. I'm a faith-based person, so there's some social elements with that. I believe we need a nation with rules. I'm not above compassion. I do think there are elements of things that need to occur to make sure that we're taking care of people in society. How that looks and how that's incentivized, there's debate and question around that. But everyone's like, well, I hate this about this person, and I hate that about that person. Like, well, then you should run, because you're never going to find a political figure that wholly agrees with you on like 100% of what you want to see happen.
But how do you like go to the poll and think about Trump and like listen to that happened the other night and be like, I get you have to do it, but I just feel like the state of the world is so fucked up.
Oh yeah.
I mean, the dog thing, that's where I was like, I think we're all gone. Like I'm in a bizarro world. Were you watching it?
I watched all of the debate. I mean, I was like depressed as I was watching it, thinking like this is where we're at. I don't know if I was more or less depressed watching it when Joe Biden was up there, thinking like this is what we have. Yeah. I vote policies over people. So like honestly, I could care less about who the person is at this point, because I've gotten to the point where people say just the most ridiculous things. And honestly, like I respect a lot of things that people have done. A good friend of mine was in Congress for 2 years, and he told me, he goes, 75% of the people up here, maybe not 75, maybe he said 70, are, he goes, not intelligent enough to hold the position that they do, and probably half of just about everybody else are crooks. He's like, there's only about 10% of people that go there, at least are principled, trying to actually make a difference, who are not trying to enrich themselves and promote themselves in life. So Kamala, did you like her more or less if you're being really honest? I thought she did a really good job.
I did too.
she did a really good job speaking, but I didn't learn anything new about what was going to happen. Whenever you're an incumbent, like you have to defend what you've done. So if you're going to do a lot of these things, then why haven't they been done? And the reality is the guy who's sitting in there right now, I think, has been fairly incapacitated for some time, which is unfortunate. Like that's a loss for the country.
Yeah.
I don't care if you like Joe Biden or not. Like the fact that he's in the mental state that he's in, and it was kind of hidden from us, and like he's been unable to govern. Like that's not good for anyone. I don't care if you love him or hate him. Like that's just not good for the country. And so I once the president is elected, I hope that person does the best job that they can. And I hope they're doing a good job. Like I've never understood like, well, I'm going to hate, I want this person to fail. I'm like, well, if they fail, that means that the country is failing.
Well, that's, I think, where we're so...
And that's what's the polarization. It's become this, politics has become a sport. And Jim Tressel told me this a long time ago, probably about 15 years ago. People used to have occupations. They would want to serve their country. And maybe they'd already served in the military, maybe they didn't. But they would go to either serve locally at a state level, maybe work their way to the national level. But they were teachers and doctors and farmers and whatever these different occupations. And they would have a cause, they figured it out, and they'd go. Maybe they'd be local, then be a congressman or congressman to a senator, maybe eventually be president, who knows? Because then you would just go back to doing your normal job. Because there was the political science was not a major in college. Like this wasn't a career. People did this to serve, and that is where it has been so warped, is people get into this, and this becomes the entirety of their life and their existence and their identity. And so when you do that, then the people that follow you, that is also their identity. So it's like, people can think differently than me. Like we can have an intelligent discussion about it. I'm not going to hate somebody because they disagree with me on things. I may have questions and we can have conversations, but like hating of people that you want, and it's like people may hate me. I'm like, I'm sorry. Like I'm not going to drive a political conversation with someone that doesn't want to drive it. If they have a question, I'll ask and talk about it. But it's become so identity based now that this is what I am. It's like, well, this is what I'd like to see happen because I think this is how the country would be run best. But it's not going to kill me. I'm not going to go glue my hand to the street because I think that that's something that's happened, and everything has become existential in this world. Like, oh, if everything's life or death, then everybody would be dead by now.
Maybe
like,
you and Ryan Miller could run.
Maybe something at a local level. But nationally, like it's hard on your family.
And plus, you're too busy with all of your multiple business ventures you've got going on, Bobby.
Well,
I can't keep up. Okay, so obviously you're on the radio. You've got your HVAC, which is really smart, right?
Yeah.
I'm sure that you're printing money with that bitch.
I mean, listen, managing people's tough.
Of course it is.
Getting things going. Like
talking about the dollar bills. That's a good thing to get into. What did you say about Dairy Queen?
So one of my partners and I went to Dairy Queen up in Russell's Point, right off 33, up on Indian Lake.
I know where that is.
Yeah, it's right off the highway there. And like, it's great in the summer. It's rough in the winter, trying to manage through.
But do you make enough in the summer for it to make sense? Or you kind of
that's the goal.
No, I know, but is that what's happening? Or are you kind of like looking at it going?
When it goes well, it does. And like we had a manager died like a year and a half ago. We had to find a new one. It's hard to find employees in like a rural area. So like that's difficult.
I'm sure the tornado didn't help.
The tornado did not help. I don't ever want to own property in Florida because I don't want to worry about hurricanes. And then that tornado came through, and we had just got reopened. We just done a lot of work. Thankfully, our store was like not badly damaged. Across the street was destroyed, and so like you feel for the community and you try to get involved. And we did some things to help. But yeah, it's tough. And so
what else you got? You got HVAC.
HVAC. Well, we've got a Kilwins. The Kilwins up in, I don't know if you've been to Bridge Park. It's an ice cream store right there on the main. It's based out of Petoskey, Michigan. They're kind of all over Florida in there. But it does pretty well. And like the summer, it's been good. There's a lot of foot traffic in Bridge Park. But it's always just getting people. People quit. They don't want to work there. Finding people that want to work hard. Like, and what you pay people now to work in service is really well. Now, a lot of that's been driven by inflation and the fact that they have to get that. But like I was a lifeguard making $7.50 an hour when I was 20. I thought I was doing great. And we're paying people, $16 an hour in some cases.
To work for you is probably interesting because you're not taking shit. You're like, look, show up, go, move.
There is that, but I would like to, contrary to what like some people may around me think, like I'd like to think that I do have some degree of compassion and like understanding for things that happen. Like understand things happen in life. It's not going to be perfect. If you believe in the person, understand that there's going to be circumstances sometimes that are greater than maybe that individual event of what happened. So, hey, isolate that. Does this person generally do a good job? Do they want to do a good job? Do you trust them? Yes. Well, then let's coach the issue. It's all coaching, teaching, like coach around the issue, see if we can improve it, because you deep down believe that this person is trying to do the best they can and they have the ability to do better.
So what is your favorite part of having all these ventures? Is it making money? Is it finding the next thing? Like, what drives you?
Like, I just want to make enough money to be able to provide for my kids. I wanted to have freedom to do what I really enjoy doing. And a lot of that is being around my family, being around my kids, enjoying that, being able to work out. I love coaching and just doing those things. And so the rest of those ventures are vehicles to help provide that.
We all know the age-old joke, why did the chicken cross the road? Well, in this day and age, cool chicks cross the road to make their way to SZN, a groovy little boutique in downtown Pal, Ohio. Located at 37 South Liberty Street, SZN offers curated apparel, accessories, and gifts from purpose-driven brands. Stop in and listen to Tara's story and the stories of the brands sold within the shop. Ask her why a hen is Zen, and receive four-legged greetings from Wally, the small and mighty shop dog. At SZN, your purchase has a bigger purpose. Mention the awesomeness that is the Keri Croft Show and receive 20% off your total purchase.
My dad played in the NFL 10 years, but like they didn't make near the money guys make today. But we did okay. There was never anything that I needed, but there was always plenty that I wanted. And we had a great upbringing, great childhood. And I'll never forget the conversation I had with my dad about this, where I wanted, I think, a new car or something when I was 16. And I told him, and it's something my kids have told me, like, well, we can afford it. And he's like, we probably could. But if I give you like everything you want at 16, what are you going to want the rest of your life? And my goal was always to be able to give my kids more than what I had, give them more opportunities. Now that may not be material possessions and, you know, this or that, but it's the opportunity. It was like, I had it much better than your grandparents. My grandparents had it far better than theirs. Like, my grandfather was one of 14 kids. Like, he didn't even live at his house. He lived with aunts and uncles. His dad was an alcoholic. Like, there's like the term for the kid, the glow up that over 4 generations have seen. Like, my goal was to make sure you guys had it better than I did. It's going to be really hard for you, talking to my children, to be able to do that for your kids. And so I'm going to try to make this as hard as I can. You live in one of the best communities in the country. You have a lot of opportunity. Your friends all have things. You're going to have connections. You have this. It's really easy for you to have a really easy life. My job for you is to try to create that friction and create that adversity. And so that may make me the bad guy sometimes. I'm also going to give you experience and exposure of things that I only could have dreamed of having as a child. And so trying to balance that and as a parent is really difficult. And that's one of the things, like, that's why I do what I do. That's why I get out of bed.
I struggle with that too, living in UA. And I come from Lima.
Yeah, Lima ain't that much different than Lancaster now.
But and also, like, I say that, but I never went without. Okay,
Yeah.
so I was, I guess, considered upper class. So I'm not trying to say like, oh, I'm from the streets of Lima.
But you saw things.
Yes.
That I saw things that my kids, I've tried to expose them
Yes.
to, and had friends that were involved in things that I didn't even think twice of it. And some of the places that I would go, where we'd stay the night, where we'd drink beer in high school and different things like that, that would be totally foreign to my children if I wouldn't like force exposure on that. My wife's from Portsmouth, so it's the same thing. We try to show them as much of that, because this is part of the problem politically in this country, is that I go talk to people that live in New York, you know, if you describe to them middle America, like, it's like watching a movie. Like, they would have, like, that's maybe 50 years ago. No, these things happen today, and they happen 45 minutes outside of 270. Like, they're here, they're everywhere. And that's like the detachment from that is what is, I think, driven a lot of this populist movement and all the different things that are happening. Is like, the people in Lima are still the same people that are in Lima, Lancaster, Portsmouth. You pick your small town from across middle America, like, there's still the same people there. And I think people don't realize what it is like to be in those communities.
So how do you...
I'm sorry.
No, I love it. Your energy is so good. So like, it's like, you know, if you could bottle and sell some of what you got, man. But that lends me the next question. It just screams at me. It's like, how do you fucking relax? How do you get your mind from the rung that's like a 10 to like a 3 where you can really just be in the moment and just breathe?
It's really a good question. I read a lot. So my daily devotional is in the morning. Tress, we used to do quiet time. And there's a quote, like the first hour is the road of the day. At night, I try to make a list, and I do throughout the day, of everything I need to get done, like that day, that week, coming forward. And so I get it out of my mind and onto the paper. And I have a glass of wine at night. I try to go at least 2 or 3 days a week without any alcohol, because on the weekend I enjoy to relax and celebrate another completion of another week. I don't think anything's like fully far from my frame of conscience that needs to get done. I'm a faith-based person, and I pray on that, try to release my problems with that, and give them up to the Lord. And then the last piece is I love exercising so much and like going really hard. Nothing will clear your mind than the only thing that you're thinking about is your next breath of air. So, like, I don't care whether it's swimming, running, lifting, you do it, playing a game. If the only thing you're thinking about and your heart rate's 175 is how can I get some more air in my lungs so I can continue to survive, like, it's a really liberating feeling. All the problems of this and the kids and my friends and social media and bills and politics and all that, it is inconsequential. Like, you talk to people who are fighting for their life, none of those things matter. And so when you work out really hard, and I'll go do things like that are probably half ignorant, but at the same time, like, when I get done with that, it's the most relieving feeling in the world, because for about 10 or 15 minutes, as my heart rate falls from like 175 back down to 100, it's like, okay, I've done that, I've survived it, and now everything else is going to seem fairly inconsequential. What was your daily devotional this morning? So it's, oh gosh, I can't even think of the lady's name that wrote it. It's Tress got me. I always ask Jim Tressel, who was my former coach. I'm a big Tressel fan. So he always had us read, and he tried to be, I wouldn't say tried, he tried to develop us as men as much as football players. And then when I was in college, I'm like, dude, I got a dad and mom. I don't need this nonsense. I'm not looking for another parent in my life. Like, I know what I need to do. I don't need you to coach me up on it. The quiet time, reading books, having these meetings. I think he thought I was half crazy, because I probably am. So as I got older, I kind of missed some of that. And I hated reading in college. And then when I got done, I'd fly, I'm traveling. Like, I can only watch so many movies and listen to so much music. I'm like, I'm going to read. And so I always kind of set a goal of 6 books a year, one every 2 months, which is low, but I want to make sure I hit it. Usually I read between 8 to 12 a year. And more in the winter. Obviously, summer starts to dissipate. But I ask Tress every year, like, give me your reading list. What are the 3 or 4 best books you've read or you want to read, you've heard about? And one of them on this year was his daily devotional. And so it's scripture, it's some passages, it's all kind of blended together. I sit there and I just read that. And it's like, okay, it's my 5 minutes in between my sets here, maybe 3 to 4. Like, time is insignificant, but I get to just fully just relax, lean into that, pray, go do another set of pull-ups and strain as hard as I can, and then kind of move on. So Jim Tressel was like the Robin Williams to your Matt Damon in Good Will Hunting, where you're like, I don't need you, and he's like, no, but you do. Remember that scene? It really is. And I think it's kind of come full circle to where I enjoy him now more than I ever did. I appreciate what he did for me in that time. And now I really cherish our talks. And I told him this. I was recording some of his speeches. He's like, "Wow, why do you keep recording all this?" I go, "Number one, coach," I go, "I've heard a bunch of them. I like to have people share it with the world. You're one of the best speakers I've ever been around. But also," I go, "I'm saving this for me." And I'm like, "No offense." He's like, "Will you put me in the ground?" I'm like, "You're in your 70s right now. Like, anything can happen." Yeah. I go, I really appreciate everything you've did for me, everything you've done. Like, he's worked. And it's great because I've watched him now reconnect because he's got some free time. He's retired, and he's busier in retirement than he was before, just helping every one of his former players that asks for anything he does. Yeah. And then also now leaning back in and like being a mentor and a resource for Ryan over at Ohio State. Like, because that's like being president. Like, of Ohio, sitting in that chair over at the Woody Hayes, unless you've done it, you can't even relate. And I've been around it for a long time. But sitting in that chair, it's like sitting in the Oval Office because the stress that resides upon you. I wrote a list of my top people I want to get in the chair. And Tressel I'm going to shoot my shot with him at some point.
but I would love to get him in here and like not even talk about Ohio State football.
Yeah.
Just everything else. I thought he was so hot when he was coaching. I thought he was so handsome. He is, I'm gonna put it down. He is the most handsome Ohio State coach in the history of Ohio State football. There was something about Tressel for sure.
Well, it's probably half the way he speaks. Like
I don't know.
His dictation, his
When
pause.
he'd walk back and forth in that vest, and his glasses would get like whatever those, they'd even
Transition lens.
And I'm not into the transition. He could even rock the transition lens. I mean, Tressel is the GOAT. I love him. Did you listen to my interview with Ryan Miller?
I caught clips of it. I mean, there was a lot of stuff, and I was like, "Oh, Andy's here," so I was like trying to just
Listen,
grab.
you don't have to make excuses here. I get you're busy. I know you're not listening to me. I'm a nobody.
I don't drive a ton, so like when I get in long drives, I'll listen to pods more.
The reason why I'm asking is because I asked Ryan Miller a question, and it really threw him off. Like, so I'm going to ask you the question. I'm going to see if this is a Ryan thing or if this is just an Ohio State like insider thing that I just don't understand. Okay, so do you think Luke Fickell will end up coming back eventually when it's all said and done? Will he have come back and will he be the head coach for the Ohio State University Buckeyes?
I'll tell you why that's hard for him, because like Ryan and Luke are best friends.
I understand that, but I understand that, but I don't understand, like, it's not a hard question. Like, do you think that will happen or not?
I'll tell you why it's a hard question before I attempt to answer it, because there's so many variables that are in play there. I think Ryan Day's a great coach because people, they've been upset. We've obviously lost to Michigan 3 years in a row, and they're like, fire him. I go, who would you want to get? Please tell me, because I've been around a lot of coaches, and I'll tell you this: Ryan is one of the best coaches I've ever been around. He's confident. Like, it's a very paradoxical relationship as a leader. Like, you have to be confident, but also humble enough to understand that you always need resources and people to guide you, and he is that. Does a great job with that. He's never too big to listen, but is firm in his beliefs. And I think he's going to do a great job. So would that imply, and like, here's the other thing, Ryan's younger than Luke. Luke's 50, I think now. So at what point is the expiration, is Ohio State going to hire a 55-year-old coach? Would they hire a 60-year-old coach? Would Ryan leave on his own terms to potentially retire, to go to the NFL? Like, those are things. I think if the job opened up, and this would be, and I would like to remove Ryan from this equation because it's not fair to him. I think would Luke want the job? I think yes. I hope that he does well enough at Wisconsin. I think that he will, to justify him getting this job.
So okay, so basically I asked the question wrong because I should have said, I thought I did say that though. I thought I said remove Ryan because I don't in any way asking that question. And I get how I think Ryan Day is a class act. And I also think that we are so hard on any Ohio State coach. It's crazy. Like, I think Ryan Day is, and you have to let the guy, grow and have a learning curve. My God, like, what are you going to do? Squash everybody if they don't do everything right all the time? I think that's an Ohio State issue. So it's nothing about that. I'm saying in a perfect world, should the job become open, it's like, hey, this is on LinkedIn. Oh, there's an ad open for the Ohio State University. That's what I'm saying. Would there be a world in which Luke Fickell, you could see him being the head? That's the question.
I think Fick would, but I don't think it would be until he knew that Wisconsin was in a good place. He wouldn't just bail on them like you see coaches do. If it happened this year, like I don't think he would take it. In 4 or 5 years, when Wisconsin's a good program and he has built it to what it needs to be, I think he would then probably take the job.
Thank you, Bobby. Thank you for answering the question.
The allure of home is so strong. Like, I love going back to my parents. I love Central Ohio. I always know I was going to come back here. Like, this is home for me. Like, it would have been really hard to stay somewhere else. My parents went back home, like, after they were done playing and moving around the country. Like, Central Ohio is home. Like, Ohio State is home. People ask if I would get into coaching. I was like, I would. There's only a handful of people I would want to coach for outside of coaching at Ohio State, because they go, if I was ever one to come back here, like, this would be it. Like, this is the place, because there's a passion and there's a emotional connection here that doesn't exist anywhere else. And so it's not a job then, it's an experience. It's something you get to do rather than, wanting to or having to do.
So observing the Ohio State Buckeyes, what are you most excited about? Is it a specific person? What are you feeling strong about with the season?
The number one thing that I'm excited about the most with this group of guys is everyone's talked about transfers coming in. Will Howard, Seth McLaughlin, Quinshon Judkins, Caleb Down. Like those guys are all great players, and they're all really good guys. To me, it was more important that Travion Henderson came back, that Emeka Ibuka came back, that Jack Sawyer and JT came back. Lathan Ransom and Cody Stein, all these guys returning for a common purpose. And my senior year, we had a great connection of guys. We had a very senior-laden defense, and a lot of guys who were either juniors or seniors who came in together. And it was probably the best team that I was a part of talent-wise at Ohio State, and things didn't work out for us being able to win a national championship, unfortunately. But when you see that singularity of purpose among guys and the bond that creates and the sacrifice, like where no one's ego is too big, and watching Trey and Ryan talking about this, and I had Trey on my show, and I asked him, because Ryan's like, I called Trey when we're going to bring Quinshon, like, are you good with this? And I asked him, I go, what? He said you were good. And the affirmation, but what went through your mind? Like, what exactly went through this? And he said, well, if it's good for the team, it's going to be good for me. And guys are you have to have some degree of an ego to be able to play and compete, and you have to be some degree of a narcissist to get into, like, just what I'm doing is the most important thing in the world, to be able to drive you with that. But they've had a large faith movement, to watch the transformation I've seen in Trey, and like to see him be a part of that and be like, yeah, I'll do this, and be genuinely happy for the success of someone else, and knowing that if this is the best way for our team to succeed, I'm all in. Like, that's the stuff I'm excited for, because that's the stuff that creates championships. And if they win, it'll be because of things like that, more so than talking about the transfers that came in and all this other stuff. It is the connection that they have, which is palpable when you're there, and it's fun to be a part of.
What about a weakness or an opportunity for growth?
You watch the first game, it was a little bit disjointed offensively, and we say that with an unrealistic expectation of they should score every time they touch the ball. Mm-hmm. I think it's just going to be continuing to grow the offense, and Will getting as comfortable as he can be. He's only played 2 games at Ohio State. The center, Seth McLaughlin, same thing. Quinshon looked a little tentative in the first game, looked great in the second game. All of those things seem to click. But it's going to be able to do that and rise to the level when you're playing elite competition, the stakes are highest. And I have confidence that they'll be able to do that given the connectivity of the team and how they feel about each other, the fit. Like, everyone always talks about culture, but it's always a really hard thing to pin down. And no one can define it, but everyone knows if it's bad or good. And it's truly like the way you feel about the people around you, and it's how you interact. Like, that's what the culture is. And theirs is tremendous, like in the way they connect, and it's never a finger at anyone else. It's always a hard look in the mirror of what I can do to make the team better. And Keri, it's awesome. Like, I love being around it because it's so positive and it's so tremendous.
Are you a crier?
I'm an emotional person, yeah. Like, I'll cry at a movie. People get like, oh, what is that? Like, yeah. I probably watched my dad cry 2 or 3 times in life, like from sadness. I would watch him give pregame speeches and have tears running down his face. Watching the 9/11 stuff yesterday, that's something that, knowing I was a senior in high school, the events surrounding it, knowing people now that friends of mine who have lost, people that are near and dear to them, and the stunning acts of heroism that happened. And I made my kids watch I don't know if you've seen the red bandana story, the Wells, and just what Boston College has done to honor that. Those things, it get me emotional. I've always been an emotional person. I think that's just how I was built. I mean, I wish I could say I'm not, but that stuff fires me up as much as playing in a football game and being with guys who I love out there on the field and working to common purpose.
The reason why I ask that is because I can see it in you. I think it's a beautiful thing when you see, especially a very strong man who you've just sat here with an intensity of a 10, and then it kind of ratcheted down a little bit to a 7. And then it's when you show that vulnerability and that you can cry on the drop of a hat, there's just something, I think, but I think it's a genuine thing where it's the vulnerability factor that it's important, makes you human. You're not Mr. Roboto.
Yeah.
Remember that song?
Oh, yeah. No Regatta, Mr. Roboto. And it's funny because there's guys who I know who look like they don't show any emotion. And I'm probably too much on the emotional roller coaster. Like that's what I said. My wife is like steady Eddie every day. I mean, I'm up and down. The highs are high, the lows are low. Like, and I'm in the low. If I'm in the low, like sometimes I want to sit for a minute, but then it's like, give me a shovel. Like, let's start digging. Let's start climbing. And that's how I guess that my dad always said, like, that's the only way. Football is the one sport that the emotional element really matters because it's very physical. And you can like summon things out of yourself that you probably didn't know were there. Wrestling might be to a certain extent, but the matches are so short, so it's hard to like fully feel it all during that time. Where in football, like bad things happen, good things happen. I mean, you're up here, just can you kind of harness that the whole time? And I mean, I've always been like this. It's probably my greatest strength and greatest weakness all at the same time. When things are riding high, like I'll go be able to do whatever it is I can. I feel like I can do anything in the world. There might be an element of bipolarism to it, Keri. I don't know. But
we all have something, don't we?
Yeah, everybody's got something. And when it's bad, I'm like, I just want to let it be bad for a minute and then let me work on it.
Yeah, well, I haven't met Courtney, but I really hope to because I think she's a modern day hero.
She's a saint.
She's a modern day fucking hero, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Okay, so what kind of beer do you drink?
Well, I'm involved with garage beer, so I drink garage beer. I usually only drink beer now, like summertime, outside, tailgates, on vacation. We'll drink some wine.
What kind of wine do you drink?
I'll drink anytime. I'll tell you this. I'm an opportunistic drinker, number one. There's a song in Blues Traveler, there's lyrics from Blues Traveler, like, whatever the waitress brings, I'll drink it and always be full. Like, I don't think I've ever turned down a drink. I don't really like gin, but I'll even drink it. I don't really like scotch, but it's more expensive, so I tell people don't waste it on me. I'll drink bourbon. I've been drinking Reposado as of late. Drink wine, cabs, Pinots, red wine, not really sweet red wine, but I will dabble if it's out there. Some whites, like mostly like Sauvignon Blanc, not too in the sweetness there.
You sound like Crazy Bone.
Yeah.
I just interviewed him. I said, what do you drink? He's like, what you got?
Yeah, like, I mean, whatever's, like I said,
whatever's clever.
Kind of like a raccoon, like a stray dog, like whatever's kind of out there. Like if you were to offer a beer right here, like I'm not a huge IPA guy, but I can drink an IPA.
See, I just missed on that. I just thought you were more of a clean, I didn't realize you'd just throw back a beer with me.
I would. Like, I'm not going to sit there. There was a day where I would drink, you know, between 12 and 24 beers in an event evening or something. Like now I'll have like 2 or 3, maybe transition to like tequila or bourbon, vodka, whatever after that. Like right, wrong, or indifferent. I mean, like I said, we grew up in Lancaster, Ohio. There wasn't a whole lot else to do growing up, like when we were in high school. So I mean, I started drinking beer when I never had a single drink until I got my first college scholarship. That was a goal. And once I achieved that, it's like, okay, well.
Party time.
Well, let's do it responsibly and like not be ridiculous. And I tell the guys this, they don't ever go out now at Ohio State. The players really don't go out and do anything. When I was in school, like we went out and partied hard. And right, wrong, or indifferent, like that was part of the toughness. Can you get through the Friday morning workout at 6 a.m. when you rolled in at 3:30? Like your head's pounding, you're dehydrated. Sports science would tell you this guy's should never be, you should never let him in there to do that stuff. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go do it. I'm going to dominate the runs. I'm going to win them all. I'm going to lift better than anybody else. I'm going to have to get something to eat and go take a nap for 4 hours afterwards. But like that's the psychological element in the test of it. But these guys don't do any of that stuff like we did then. And so I've tried to taper it back. But I mean, I'm 240 pounds. I'm always conscious, like I said, I go 2 or 3 days a week with not consuming any because I enjoy drinking. I know that there's an age now and a movement where it's like, you know, sobriety's cool. And like, I'm not saying people can do to each their own, but I enjoy drinking.
You
like,
got a little Frank the Tank in there.
It's fine. But even just the social element
yeah.
Sitting like, this would have been better with a drink or two.
So this is the part of the program where I rope you in.
Yeah.
Okay. And we figure out how to get together again because this is what I do.
Okay.
So we are going to do a beer mile on my Peloton Tread Plus.
The beer mile.
My request to you.
I watched that. I want to do one so bad. But it looks so terrible.
So you're in. You're going on record.
But if we're doing it, we're drinking full beers.
That's fine. You're going on record saying you will participate in the next beer mile.
Yeah.
Bobby Carpenter.
Bobby Carpenter. I'll be in the next beer mile.
Yes.
we'll do that.
Yes. And are we friends now? Are we
can do that. Are you going to get involved in it?
Yeah, I am. I definitely am, for sure. Now, do you think what's going to happen now? I don't know what they call this phenomenon, but you know how, like, if you buy a car,
The red car syndrome, red car.
so now we're going to see each other everywhere. I think we're going to see each other
Possibly.
everywhere now. It's going to be really weird. I'll be like, hey, Bobby, and we've never seen each other before. It's going to happen. I have a feeling.
Well, I mean, I've lived fairly close to you, so the spheres should overlap at some point.
You're
so
right.
it wouldn't surprise me. And I mean, there's a lot of activities going on in the fall, so that makes a lot of sense.
Okay, and last but not least, are you going to, like, I feel like I should come on your show at some point.
We could have you on.
No one ever does. You football guys, I'm kind of ostracized. What you guys are doing is great, but you're all talking about the same thing. If you could have a little...
I don't disagree. People want to know about different stuff outside of...
I'm your girl, Bobby.
Okay.
I'm your girl.
We can work that in then. That'll be...
let's do it.
That should be fairly fun, easy.
Okay, so I've got all my requests out. So what do you think, scale of 1 to 10, how enjoyable has this been for you?
This is fun. This is cathartic. Got a lot of stuff out there. I mean, you said, I'm an emotional guy. There's things in there. I mean, hopefully I didn't infuriate anybody.
Hopefully
And we talked politics. I mean, I
Listen.
talked about my marriage.
Oh, I said scale of 1 to 10. You didn't give me a number.
I mean, this was 8.5, 9. I mean, it's fairly,
Okay, I'll take it. I'll take 8.5.
I mean, you want a
and
perfect 10? Like
No one's ever going to give me a perfect 10.
Okay. Like it was easy,
Ryan Miller,
enjoyable.
like no one will give me a perfect 10. 10s are hard to come by.
I was in the Jim Tressel comments were fascinating, but I mean, outside of that, like
Wait till Tressel hears that. He'll be like, who's this wackadoo?
if you can get him here, like he comes through in the fall. The hardest thing is trying to pin him down because he'll have to do it when he's coming through town. And when he comes through,
I would take Tressel I would take him at 3 a.m.
Oh yeah,
I would bring my little microphone. I would go wherever he's at and sit with his retired ass. I would bring my equipment. And if he wore his vest, I think I might pass away.
Oh yeah, he still does it all.
He's probably still hot too. Maybe you can help me pull some strings with Tressie Wessie.
I don't know if he responds to that, but we'll see what we can do.
And with that, Bobby Carpenter, thank you so much. This has been an absolute dream. You know what? You may not give me a 10, but I'm going to give you a 10. How about that?
you.
All 10s.
I appreciate it.
And if you're still out there following your girl, follow me on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcasts. And until next time, go buy a Germain Toyota, will you? And keep moving.
Thank you.
Oh, shit. That was great.